Hey, real quick, before we dive into today's episode, if you've been feeling like your brand needs a little love, but you're not quite sure where to start, I have just the tool you need. The Standout Brand Audit Bot is an AI-powered guided audit that shows you exactly what's working, what's not, and how to strengthen your brand using my proven Standout brand system. In 10 minutes or less, you'll walk away with clear next steps to move your brand forward with purpose. It's completely free. Just head to the show notes to grab the link and get started. What if I told you that the thing you're skipping to try and save money and time is the exact thing that is costing you the most money and time? I'm sure you can guess that that thing I'm talking about is brand strategy. And on today's episode, I'm going to talk you through the real tangible ways that skipping brand strategy is draining your time and your money. Whether you're starting fresh or you've already invested in a brand that feels like it's just not quite working, this episode is going to really change how you think about what branding really is and how you can ensure that you get an actual ROI on your next branding project. Welcome to the Six Figure Brand Podcast, where each week we're pulling back the curtain on what it really takes to build a six-figure business as an online service provider. I'm your host, Morgan. I'm a branding expert, online agency owner, mom of two, and military spouse, and I'm obsessed with helping entrepreneurs like you understand the ins and outs of branding so that you can use it to grow your business without sacrificing your sanity. Whether you're just starting out or focused on scaling, we're diving into everything you need to build a profitable and sustainable online business. Let's get to it. I say this all the time on this podcast. Working on your brand is one of the most fun and exciting parts of business. And it's really, really easy to want to jump to the fun, pretty parts of your brand, of branding, like your colors, your logo, and your fonts. And I understand how strategy can sometimes feel abstract, unnecessary, and like something that you can just push off until later. Even huge companies with very, very large marketing teams and budgets fall into this trap. But I really want to drive home for you today that strategy is not the boring prerequisite to the fun stuff or something that you have to slog through in order to get to the part that you actually want to work on. Brand strategy is the thing that's going to determine whether or not your branding investment pays off at all. So today I'm talking you through 5 specific ways that skipping brand strategy costs you time and money. Let's get started. A quick reminder, if you are new to this podcast, to put it very simply, brand strategy is the foundation for everything that you do in your business. It answers who you are, who your ideal client is, why you're in business, what your vision for the future is, how you want to be perceived. And it is really, really important that you do that you build that foundation before you work on visuals. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it because I have explained over and over and over again what brand strategy is on this podcast. But if you want a really deep dive into what is brand strategy, you can go back and listen to episode 20 of this podcast. The title is What is Brand Strategy? A Complete Breakdown for Online Business Owners, and then come back and finish the rest of this episode. So let's talk about why people skip brand strategy in the first place. First, I want to reassure you that if you are the person who has jumped straight to your logo and your colors and your fonts and you haven't done strategy and you're feeling a little bit called out by this, I get it. I would make the argument that most business owners, especially in their first 1 to 5 years in business, do it this way. Now, that doesn't mean that it's the right way to do it, but I just want to reassure you that you haven't broken your business. You're not doing something completely wrong, and you can course correct. So why do people skip strategy in the first place? It feels really intangible. And transparently, this has made it tricky for me to market brand strategy because people often don't quite understand what they're investing in when they invest in brand strategy. And from the client side, you aren't necessarily going to be posting your brand strategy guide on Instagram or printing it out and hanging it on your wall. It's really important and foundational, but you don't have a pretty sexy, shiny thing to show for it in the way that you do with your logo design or your new website or your color palette or your fonts or your social templates or whatever. And so there's a really strong pull to so that's number one. And I would say the biggest one is that it feels really abstract and untangible and intangible. And so that makes it easy for people to say, oh, I'll just do this later, or it's not that important. The second reason is that you're in a hurry. Strategy takes a lot of time, especially if you're going to do it right. And when you've made the decision to rebrand your business, you are so excited to work on the fun parts and you want it done right away. You want to put that new brand out into the world. And so you feel like taking the time to focus on strategy is going to maybe not be that impactful and also take up a lot of time and slow down the process a lot. Now, it will take up a fair amount of time and it may slow down the process a little bit, but it's super, super important because, like we're going to talk about further on in this episode, it saves you so much time in the long run. And then the third reason why people frequently skip brand strategy is money. You can find somebody who will design you just a logo, just a color palette, just choose some fonts for you, just make you a website without doing that foundational strategy work. Probably they will base your design off of just what you like, some inspiration you send them, what are your favorite colors, and it will look good. So it can be tempting to go for the designer who will just make you something that you like that looks good because it's cheaper. And I don't need to remind you how expensive life is right now. So when you feel like you can save a couple bucks by skipping the strategy piece that feels maybe not the most important or not the part that you're most excited about, it can be really tempting to do that. But the problem there is that you get a brand that just looks pretty. It's not rooted in strategy, and so therefore it's not going to actually do any real work to grow your business. And that, I think, is really the core of all of this, is that it is tempting to skip strategy because it's very easy to get yourself in the mindset of, I just need something that looks good. And you do need something that looks good, but you also need something that is going to serve your business well for a really long time so that you can rebrand one time and be done and focus on growing your business and not have to keep coming back to the drawing board. All three of those reasons that I gave for skipping strategy are totally valid. And if you are someone who is currently going through a rebrand or planning to go through a rebrand or recently has done it and has skipped the strategy piece, I would really seriously ask yourself if one of those reasons have been the driving factor and kind of what's the why behind that. Why do you not want to spend more money? Why are you in a hurry? Why do you feel like strategy is not that important? And dig a little bit deeper. So now that we understand why it's so common to skip the strategy piece, let's talk about why it's a bad idea and what the real cost of skipping brand strategy is. So first and foremost, when you build a brand with no strategy, you risk attracting the wrong clients or no clients at all. A big part of your brand strategy is your ideal client. And when I work through brand strategy with my clients, we spend a good chunk of our session on this, getting to know our ideal client like the back of our hand. And I don't mean getting to know what their Starbucks order is or where they shop or what their favorite YouTube channels are. I mean really getting inside their head to know how are they feeling, what are they struggling with, what do they need to hear from you in order to take that next step towards working with you. And without that strategy, your brand is basically just trying to speak to everybody, which means that it's not going to resonate very deeply with anyone, unfortunately. So then you end up attracting people who are not the right fit, or your brand is so generic that you're just not attracting anyone. And that can be really frustrating whenever you just went through this rebrand, you spent all this time and money, and now you're thinking, okay, where are all the clients? Tailoring your brand to a very clearly defined audience will increase the effectiveness of your marketing. There's not a lot that I can promise you when it comes to branding, but I can promise you that. And so if you are struggling with feeling like your brand looks really nice, but it's just not attracting any clients or the right clients, I can all but guarantee you that the problem is a misaligned or lacking strategy. So this is costing you money by all the clients that you're not booking, but it's also costing you time, because if you are attracting those misaligned clients, then you're getting on discovery calls and spending your time chatting with these people who are not going to hire you, and you're never going to get that time back. The second way that skipping brand strategy is costing you time and money kind of piggybacks off the first one a little bit. You are going to face a lot of pricing-based objections, which can feel super frustrating, especially when we live in an online world that is so big on charging your worth and don't discount your services and constantly be raising your prices and all of those things. If your brand does not clearly communicate your value from the first touch point, and by value, I don't mean monetary value, I mean the transformation that you're going to offer your clients, then you end up competing pretty much just based on price. And unfortunately, that is a difficult competition to win. But here's the thing. Pricing-based objections are not necessarily just about the dollar amount. They're about perceived value, and perceived value is a branding problem. So here's what I mean. Let's say you are a social media manager and your package is 12 social media posts a month for $2,000 a month. And that's literally how you're framing it, is I will create 12 social media posts for you and post them every month. Somebody's going to look at that and say, wow, 12 posts for $2,000, that's like almost $170 a post. I can find somebody on Upwork or Fiverr or whatever who will create posts for me for significantly cheaper than that, because you're not communicating the fact that they're not just paying for those posts. They're paying for your years and years of experience. They're paying for you learning from working with other clients. They're paying for your time in putting together their strategy and doing research and all of those things. So then you're competing with somebody who's charging $10 an hour on Upwork who is not offering the same service as you, But since your brand hasn't positioned you in a way that makes that clear, your audience doesn't know that. So then two things happen. Either they will just go with the cheaper option because, again, they're not understanding the true value of working with you, or they'll ask you for a discount. And that is never a good situation to be in, because option A is you give them the discount and then you're making less money. So lack of brand strategy is costing you money. Or B, you don't give them the discount and you probably don't book the client. Or it just starts off the working relationship on really uncomfortable and awkward footing, to be honest. When you have a weak or no foundation of brand strategy, you will end up competing on price. If you have a very strong foundation of brand strategy and you're positioned really well and your value is really communicated, your audience, to a point, is not going to care how much it costs to work with you, because they want to work with you because your brand has done such a good job in communicating that value. And the difference there is not who has the prettier brand, it's who has the more effective brand and the more strategic brand. And again, to the point about brand strategy costing you money and time, I think we've very clearly articulated how it's costing you money in this instance, but it's also costing you time by, again, getting on sales calls with people who are probably not going to book you anyway because they just want to find somebody who will do it as cheap as possible. And by going back and forth trying to negotiate with these people who, again, are probably going to go hire the social media manager that they found off of Upwork. Number 3, you will waste hours and hours and hours tinkering with your brand and website and playing around in Canva and trying things out and telling yourself that, oh, you're just being creative or you're just really particular about how you want things to look. Because without a strong foundation of brand strategy, nothing is ever going to feel quite right. And the reason for that is you don't have a strong why behind what you're creating for your brand. So every single time that you make a social post or you make an update to your website or whatever, you're reinventing the wheel, versus having a strong and clearly defined brand strategy and a visual guide for your brand that is based on that strategy makes the stuff go so quickly, because you know exactly what to say, how things should look, where they should go, and you're not having to reinvent the wheel every single time. Without a rock solid brand strategy as kind of your North Star in creating designs and content for your brand, every single decision becomes subjective and you second guess it over and over, and you want to show your friends and ask them what they think. And maybe you'll try this new font, and all of a sudden it's taken you 4 hours to design one social media post that may or may not bring you any clients. I cannot tell you how many people I've worked with on their brand strategy that their number 1 or number 2 pain point has been, I just can't stop tweaking things. I worked with someone probably 2 months ago now, and she literally said in her intake form, I've DIY'd my brand to death and I need somebody to just tell me what to do. And frequently these people will tell themselves, oh, it's just because I'm not good at design. The problem isn't that you're not good at design. It's that you don't have a strategy that's driving the design of your brand. When you have a really solid brand strategy, which then is translated into a really solid visual strategy, you don't really need to be a good designer, because all of those decisions are already made for you. A brand that's built on strategy truly does give you a filter for every single decision you're making when it comes to creating content for your brand, updating your website, really creating anything at all that has to do with your brand. And so when something doesn't feel right, you can pretty quickly and easily diagnose why, instead of just changing things forever and ever and ever, hoping that eventually something will feel right. This is truly probably the biggest hidden cost of skipping brand strategy, because obviously you're wasting a ton of time creating things that you are probably never going to be happy with. But also, what if instead of spending 3 or 4 hours on one social media post, you spent those 3 or 4 hours networking with people who might become referral partners or leads for you? Let's say, just for math's sake, that it takes you 3 hours to make a social media post that you're happy with. You post it, you get like a few likes and some shares, but nobody reaches out to you to inquire about your services. Versus you spend those 3 hours going to 3 1-hour networking events in a week, and you connect with, 10 new people total from that experience, and one of them books your services and your service is $2,500. That seems like spending that time doing a revenue driving activity in your business, like networking or marketing or connecting with past clients, or even serving the clients you already have, would be a much better and much more profitable use of your time. The fourth way that skipping brand strategy ends up costing you time and money is that you end up rebranding sooner and more often than you thought you would have to. I cannot tell you how many clients I've worked with that have basically been perpetually rebranding. Like every 2, maybe 3 years, they feel like they've outgrown their brand and they go hire a designer and they say, I need a new brand because my business has grown or this or that, or it just doesn't feel quite right or whatever. Designer makes them a brand that looks great. And then the exact same thing happens 2 years from now. And I will tell you that 100% of those people tell me, when I say, well, what kind of strategy was involved? They say, not really any. They just asked me to send some examples of what I like. And, it was just all about my own personal preferences. Skipping strategy might seem like it saves you money and saves you time when it comes to your rebrand, because it will be cheaper to hire a designer who doesn't do any brand strategy. I am here to tell you that is only in the short term. Is your brand feeling a little off? Like your visuals, messaging, and your overall vibe just are not lining up with where your business is headed? You probably don't need another pretty logo. You actually need a solid strategy behind your brand. That's exactly what we'll build together inside the Standout Brand Strategy session, a one-on-one deep dive into your brand foundation so that you can finally show up with clarity, consistency, and confidence. And if you're thinking about working with Spect & Co. on branding or web design, this is your first step for every single project that we do together. Clients who have gone through this process have tripled their audience size, doubled their revenue, and raised their rates by 30% or more. Use the link in the show notes to book your session, and don't forget to enter code SFBPOD at checkout to save $100. 100% of the time, it just delays the cost and honestly just kind of creates bigger problems to deal with later. It is really putting a Band-Aid on without actually addressing the issue. And I will say, because people ask me this all the time, okay, well, so if I do the brand strategy first and then we do my design, then that means that I'm never ever going to need another rebrand. And no, that's not the case. But it is not normal to be rebranding your business every 18 months or every 2 years. When you build your brand based on a really strong foundation of strategy, the core of your business and of that strategy doesn't really change a whole lot, even as your business evolves. Your purpose doesn't really change. Your mission doesn't change a whole lot. Your values pretty much stay the same. Sometimes your vision for the future changes. Sometimes your ideal client changes. Your offers definitely change. But the core of who you are as a business owner pretty much stays the same, which means that when we build a really strong strategic brand for you, that it can easily grow and evolve along with you in a way that feels really simple and natural versus having to burn everything down and start over and over again, and then sitting here wondering why every 2 years you feel like you've outgrown your brand. For instance, my client, Erin, is a business coach. She worked with Spect & Co. on her brand back in 2023. We're now in 2026. And she consistently refers to this version of her brand as her forever brand. Now, in that 3 years that she's been using it, some things have shifted. We've swapped out one of the fonts because she was having trouble using it and with legibility and stuff. And some of her color palette, we've switched the way we're using. So we haven't changed any colors, but we're leaning into certain colors over other ones in her business. We've created some new graphic elements for her to use. That's what I mean by a brand that evolves with you. So you are making little tweaks and adding little things, but you are not finding yourself in a situation where you're saying, okay, I chose green and purple for my brand colors, but now I actually hate green and purple. And I think I need to do something totally different and totally reinventing yourself every couple of years. Not only does that cost you time and money, because every rebrand is a couple $1,000s and several weeks that you are focusing on that instead of focusing on the things that actually grow your business. But it also really, really, really erodes your brand trust and recognition because frankly, it makes you look like you can't make up your mind or you can't stick to anything, which is not a good look as an online business owner. But also, when you show up differently every 2 years, it makes it really hard for somebody to recognize you because you're always changing. So how could they? Your brand color is blue one day and it's orange the next. They're not going to stop and take the time to sleuth out, oh, is this the same person as this account was yesterday, or did they sell the business, or what's going on? They're just going to be kind of confused and a little turned off and then move on with their day. And that is not what we want. We want you to be recognizable. We want people to build that trust with you, and you do that over a long period of time. Rebranding constantly makes that really, really difficult, if not impossible. And finally, the fifth way that skipping strategy costs you time and money in your business is that you spend way more money and time on marketing because you frankly don't know what you're doing. If you are DIYing your marketing, every single piece of it feels like you're starting from scratch over and over again, which is mentally exhausting and also takes a lot of time. Or if you are hiring contractors to do these things in your business, the same goes for them. They don't really have a clear direction or a core message or a framework of your business to work from. So they're just making it up as they go and starting from scratch every single time. So it's really hard to get traction or to even be able to test things to make edits for the future. I think that a lot of the time, whenever I hear people say, oh, creating content for my business is so hard, or social media is so hard, or marketing is so hard, and they think that they have like a content creation or a creativity problem, it's really a brand strategy problem. Marketing your business should feel so boring because you're repeating the same things over and over and over again. And likewise, it should be relatively fast for you to do. And that requires a very strong core message, a good understanding of your ideal client, a solid visual system for your brand. When you have all of those things, marketing and content creation, I won't say becomes easy, but becomes as easy as possible. Brand strategy gives you your messaging, your brand voice, your content pillars, and all of it becomes a filter and a framework that makes every single marketing decision so much faster and easier, whether you're doing it yourself or you have a team member working on it for you. And I think from a consumer side, you can probably tell the businesses that you follow on social media or whose emails you receive or whatever, who do and do not have a strong brand strategy. The ones without a strong strategy feel like they're just like posting something different every week and there's not really a common thread tying things together and it's just sort of throwing spaghetti off the wall, versus the businesses who do have a strong brand strategy that you know exactly what to expect every time you see content from them. And when you do this really, really well, you will end up in a situation where somebody can see a post from you or read a piece of content of yours and they will know that it's yours before they've even seen like what account it's attached to. And that is the biggest compliment that we can get when it comes to marketing and brand strategy. So again, it's obvious here how this wastes a ton of time, but it also wastes lots of money, because if you're paying a marketing company or a social media manager or a copywriter or whatever to work on this stuff for you, you're paying them to figure it out as they go, which is really unfortunate. And B, similar to how I said in point number 3, you're wasting all of this time trying to figure out how to market your business or what content to create, when if you had done your brand strategy, streamlined your content creation and marketing process, you could have freed up all those hours to do things that actually bring in clients and drive revenue in your business. So to recap, before we get into this next section, skipping brand strategy costs you time and money because 1, you attract the wrong clients or no clients at all. 2, you compete based on price. 3, you waste hours and hours tinkering with your brand because nothing ever feels quite right. 4, you end up rebranding way sooner than you had planned and over and over and over again. And 5, you spend way too much time and money on marketing because you don't really know what you're trying to say. Now, what does it look like when you do invest in brand strategy? First, having a solid brand strategy is really like having a map or a blueprint for your business. You are not reinventing the wheel every time you sit down to create content or update your website. Your brand strategy dictates all of that for you. I like to frame it to my clients that brand strategy is the filter through which every single decision in your business is made. So when there's a piece of content that you have an idea for, or an opportunity that you were given, or a new offer you want to put out into the world, you ask yourself, okay, does this align with my overall brand strategy? Does this serve my ideal client? Does this get me closer to my vision? Does this support my purpose? Does it align with my values? If the answer is yes, you move forward. If the answer is no, you don't. It is truly as simple as that. Additionally, you get to stop wasting all this time and money that we have talked about throughout the episode so far. Everyone who's working in your business or on your business is working from the same playbook. Every move you make is aligned, and you are truly able to accelerate that forward trajectory in your business because you're not pulling yourself in so many different directions. And when it comes to visuals, that part gets easier too, because you can rest assured that every visual decision that's made in your brand, all the colors that are chosen, the way your logo is designed, how your website is laid out, is again all based on that foundation of strategy. So you can really trust that it's designed in an intentional and strategic way to draw in those ideal leads, convert them to clients, and grow your business. It sounds really simple. And as I'm saying this, I even am like, oh, well, duh, Morgan. But I can't tell you how many times I've worked with clients who come to me and they say, I skipped the strategy piece and I feel like I've wasted so much time and money, and now I'm having to pay to get the same work done that I already did. And I don't want to see you do that. A strategy first brand is not just about looking good. It will look good, but it's about having a brand that actually works, that actually attracts the right people, that actually supports your pricing and your offers, and that gives you so much clarity in your marketing that it feels easy and fun. And that is how you build a brand that is something that you're going to actually want to use for years and years and years, and not that's going to leave you wanting to start all over 18 months from now. I know it can feel like strategy is an extra step or it's kind of in the way of getting to the fun part. I get that. But it really should be the foundation that everything on your business is built upon. And while skipping it can certainly save you time and money in the short run, in the long run, it's going to cost you. I can promise you that. If your interest has been piqued throughout this episode and you're thinking, oh, maybe I did skip the strategy a little bit and maybe I should work on that, I would love to hop on a brand chat with you. It's a 15-minute no strings attached call, and you can ask me whatever questions you have about how working on brand strategy for your specific business would look. And I can help you decide if a standout brand strategy session is right for you. And of course, podcast listeners always get $100 off of standout brand strategy session. You can just use code SFBPOD when you book. That link is always in the show notes. And again, my DMs are always open to answer any questions and continue the conversation. Thanks for tuning in to the Six Figure Brand Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to rate the show and leave a review on whatever app you're listening on. And as a thank you, I'll send you coffee on me. Yes, I'm serious. As a smaller show for now, you taking the time to do this makes a huge impact on how we can reach more people and how I can continue to create this content for free. When you take a screenshot of your review, follow and tag me on Instagram at @SpectandCo. I'll send you a $5 Starbucks gift card. As always, don't forget to check out the show notes for any links or resources I mentioned during the episode. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you next week.